a historic monastery in Egypt located at Mount Sinai, a monastery connected to prophecy. It has been continuously run by a group of Eastern Orthodox monks going back to apostolic times, has allegedly been taken by the government of Egypt. It's caused an international firestorm. So we're going to go to the story here because this is one that is only being half told when people share this on social media. So we're going to try to clear the air on this so everybody knows. We go here to the National Herald for the story that is as it is being shared on social media. This is the story most people are seeing. There's more to it than this. But the headline is Historic St. Catherine's Monastery Faces Closure and Seizure by Egypt. There's the monastery located at Mount Sinai. Yes, that Mount Sinai. Let's get to the details of the article. Quote, in a drastic and controversial move, Egypt has closed St. Catherine's Monastery in Sinai, the oldest continuously operating Christian monastery in the world. This decision has drawn strong criticism from Archbishop Laranmos, who has described it as another historic blow to Hellenism and Orthodoxy. The Greek government was reportedly caught off guard by the action, especially since the issue was discussed recently during a meeting between Greek Prime Minister Mitsotakis and Egyptian President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi. The Greek Ministry of Foreign Affairs is actively handling the matter, viewing it as extremely important. According to orthodoxia.info, St. Catherine's Monastery was founded by Byzantine Emperor Justinian and around 15 centuries ago, and holds significant international prestige and reverence. Despite numerous historical challenges, the monastery has endured until today. Egypt's decision, however, infringes upon religious freedoms by converting the monastery into a museum and transferring its assets to the Egyptian government. This move starkly contradicts assurances given by the Egyptian president during his recent visit to Greece. Beyond property seizure, Egypt is also evicting the monks from the monastery so that buildings can become a tourist attraction similar to the pyramids. In response, the monks view this action as a severe violation of their rights and are preparing an international campaign to alert Christian churches and other monotheistic religions about their plight. And that is where the story ends when it comes to how people are talking about this online. So we're going to give you a few updates. And we start with one from Hillary White, who is not one to bang the drum of Catholic prophecy unfolding. In fact, she very much kind of isn't like that. Now, if you're not familiar with Hillary White, you should follow her on X and anywhere else you might find her. She is a former professional writer, is very knowledgeable about art, like the history of Christian art. And you will learn a lot following her, but she's also got some hot takes. So she's got her sources. Update from St. Catherine's. Generally against the kind of cheap, sensationalistic, spooky nonsense one finds online, but I'm ready to believe the abbot of St. Catherine's. As one abbot told us in a phone call from Jerusalem yesterday, if Sinai is lost, the end is near. Posted from a source to a social media group dedicated for the Eastern Orthodox. The spokesman of the monastery of Sinai spoke clearly this morning on Open TV. Yesterday's announcement by Egypt regarding the monastery of Sinai is wishful thinking. We need to read between the lines. At this moment, as he mentioned, we are guests in the monastery and it is on its way to becoming a museum. Father Peripherios asked that the Egyptian government be questioned as to whether the building of the monastery belongs to them or not, and we will get to that in a moment. Since in their announcement yesterday, they stated that they are allowing them to live monastically and to continue their religious duties. Essentially, they're considered guests, and at any moment, they could be expelled. Elsewhere, he pointed out that the false prophet himself, in a written document, granted ownership of the monastery to the monks and placed it under the protection of the followers of the crescent moon. Don't listen to those who say that nothing is changing at the monastery of Sinai. The truth is different, and some are playing games at the expense of the monks. The monastery of Sinai is the second Hagia Sophia. Woe to us if we lose it, because then Pandora's box will be opened. As one abbot told us in a phone call from Jerusalem yesterday, if Sinai is lost, the end is near. Now, remember all those caveats. He's essentially saying that somebody is lying, and this is why we now go to what the government of Egypt has said. We can go to the Greek Reporter. Headline: Egypt affirms St. Catherine Monastery status after court clarification. This happened yesterday. There's again a beautiful shot of that place. And I think every apostolic Christian should stand together on this. This predates the East-West schism by many centuries. We should all be interested in defending this. From the article, Egypt has reaffirmed its unwavering commitment to safeguarding the monastery of St. Catherine of Sinai, emphasizing that a recent court ruling has further solidified its protected status. Cairo said that the court ruling, which was mistakenly interpreted as a prelude to the seizure and closure of the world's oldest continuously functioning Christian monastery, does the exact opposite. It safeguards its future. The Egyptian Ministry of Foreign Affairs dismissed rumors of any threat to the monastery. A spokesperson clarified, the monastery of St. Catherine and its historic sites remain completely unaffected. Its religious and archaeological significance, along with its seminary, remain fully intact. The spokesperson highlighted that this legal ruling marks the first formal recognition and assurance of the monastery's sanctity. They explained that while contracts have been signed for certain nearby areas to be designated as natural reserves, the court has upheld the monks' rights to access and use these religious and archaeological sites to preserve their spiritual significance. He emphasized that areas designated as state land due to a lack of valid ownership documents are located far from inhabited regions and have no impact on the monastery. Emphasizing the importance of accuracy and avoiding premature conclusions, the spokesperson urged careful consideration of the court's decision. He also underscored Egypt's dedication to maintaining its deep historical ties with Greece, urging respect for these enduring relations. And yada, yada, yada. You get the idea. But they are not buying this in a lot of places. As you saw, the Eastern Orthodox tend to think that this is still an attempt to seize their property. And not just their property, but a incredibly historically significant monastery. It is the Hagia Sophia of monasticism, basically. And if that goes, at least in the eyes of some of the Eastern Orthodox, you should be preparing yourself for the final days. I'm curious what you think about, because, as Elizabeth said, Hagia Sophia is now a temple of the crescent moon and museum now because the Eastern Christians did not fight to protect their land. It is pretty complicated, but yes, and the fact that it's still after almost 6 centuries now in their hands is a tragedy of history. Byrne says, I mean, the Eastern Christians fought, they were just really bad at it and constantly suffering plagues and other disasters. And there was some geopolitics stuff too at the time that didn't exactly help either. I'm curious though, if you see this narrative being played out online, just remember that the story involving the Orthodox in this is a lot more complicated than most of the initial reporting. There are now secular courts involved in this and political leaders involved in this. And this could turn into a giant international problem. But the Egyptian government says, no, we're taking lands that are near the monastery, but not really important to the monks. And we're going to protect it as state property. And if any of those lands do have religious significance, the monks will still have access to them. We shall see. We shall see. Anyway, thanks very much, folks. As always, pray for the church. I'm Anthony Stine. Ave Maria.